All right, my English teacher friends. So, in this particular writing workshop, I'm going to do something that you've probably seen me do a few times at this stage of the game if you're familiar with my work. An exercise in which I use Oscar nominated shorts to solidify writing introductions for FRQ1 and FRQ2 for the AP Literature and Composition exam. So, for you non AP teachers, this works perfectly well if you want to get your students trained on how to write introductions for literary analysis, because my templates, especially for the declarative and the inverted thesis, work uniformly across the expository modes. And basically for FRQ1 and FRQ2, we're teaching students how to write introductions for poetry, prose, short passages. So my template works perfectly for that. If you're teaching a gen ed class as well as AP, it does not matter. So I found a great new producer that is new to me, David James Armsby, has done a great series of dystopian short films. And all of the films that I use for the purposes of these writing workshops are 10 minutes or less. And this one called Being Pretty, you can find it on YouTube for free. And I think it's about 7 minutes long. And it's fantastic in terms of front loading some of the motifs and themes that you see in dystopian literature. I know personally for me, in terms of teaching like Handmaid's Tale, 1984, Brave New World, this sets me up really well to introduce a lot of the types of reads that I want my students to do with those particular books. So what I'll do for this is introduce or reintroduce or go over again my template for the declarative and the inverted thesis. And since we are performing literary analysis, we know that we'll be using the inverted thesis. So I'll just give a cursory glance over the declarative. We tend to use declarative for argument, persuasion, synthesis, and rhetorical analysis. But for literary analysis, all of the FRQs on the AP literature exam, we can invert the thesis. So I'll show you 4 introductions that manipulate and pull the strings of the template, and it should demystify the writing process for you and your students so that they can do or you, if you want to Bob Ross your instruction, can write some introductions while incorporating my template. So that's the big thing. I already alluded to it. My secret question: what if we taught composition like Bob Ross teaches painting? So in order to get my students to write in the manner in which they do, with their voice, their rhythm, their flow, their complexity, that teeter-totter blend of the colloquial, the vernacular, the academic, I have to do a lot of Bob Rossing of my instruction. And what I mean by that is I paint a lot of exemplars and models for my students, demonstrating for them exactly how to pull the strings of the template. And as the academic year progresses, I pull back until I just disappear and I don't have to model at all anymore. So especially in my AP classes, I tell my students that as of March 1st, we begin the day after Labor Day. So as of March 1st, I cease to be the Bob Ross of instruction unless I absolutely need to, but they should be independent at that point in time, and all scaffolds, all training wheels are off. So the question is, how do I write the introductory paragraph if we are going to use Being Pretty as our core text? How would I do an introductory paragraph to perform literary analysis of that? And I give my students 2 options. You can declare or invert, but as I already mentioned, we're doing literary analysis, so we are going to invert. So implicit in any prompt, all right, and I'll do a video on this down the road here soon. Implicit in any of the prompts for FRQ1 and FRQ2 are 2 questions. What is the authorial intent? And some of you might ask the question, what is the universal theme? And how does the author construct meaning? So if students answer both of those questions and accurately ascertain the meaning of the text, meaning they read it correctly, they're going to come out of the gates pretty blazing, especially if they can manipulate some of the nuanced things that I teach in my Nuance Academy and Word Study Academy. So what is the authorial intent, and how does the author construct meaning? So I'll even front load this a little bit more. So the introduction, and we'll take a look at a slide in just a second, is going to be 4 sentences long. No more, no less. My introductions are always 4 sentences long. The first 3 sentences answer this question: what is the authorial intent? And we got to make sure the kids don't get plot summative. We don't want them to write Cliff Note summations. So we'll demonstrate and illustrate how to avoid those snafus. And then the last sentence is going to be the thesis statement. How does the author construct meaning? And that's where the student is going to identify the salient literary terms and/or devices. So let's move on here. Declarative thesis is you begin with the thesis. And this works well, say, in FRQ1 for AP language, where the student might be posed an essential question. Just out of the gate, boom, answer the question. So like one year they looked at eminent domain, and the kids needed to formulate some kind of pro, con, and in the middle stance with regards to eminent domain. So in that first sentence, just boom, drop the thesis as concisely, precisely, succinctly as possible. Flesh it out with context and background. I like to see a fair amount of tier 2 vocabulary in student introductions. It is an academic task. So by tier 2 vocab, I simply mean your average run-of-the-mill SAT level word. If you're familiar with my work, you know that I borrow a lot from Strunk and White's text called Write It Right. And in that text, they have something called rule number 18. I have a bunch of videos in my YouTube channel about this. And they espouse the idea that there's 12 different ways to construct a sentence, a single sentence. So you'll see my students hopefully be able to manipulate their syntax for the purposes of achieving voice rhythm and flow. I'm always going for the sophistication point with my students. And as I already mentioned, it's going to be 4 sentences long. But we need not worry about the declarative. We're going to go inverted. First 3 sentences are going to answer the question, what is the authorial intent? Which means that we're going to end with the thesis, how does the author construct meaning? We're still going to focus on that tier 2 vocabulary. We're going to focus on the sentence constructs, see if we can have some nice voice rhythm and flow, and exactly 4 sentences long. So here is one example for being pretty. So in many regards, the mechanisms at work in contemporary society are really set into place to strip the individual of their authenticity. And that's like the whole aha as far as what David James Armsby is asserting in the short film. All right, I'll read it again. So this is like the exigence, the big aha moment. Why did he do it? What's his universal truth? In many regards, the mechanisms at work in contemporary society are really set into place to strip the individual of their authenticity. Now, I'll just flesh that out a little bit. 2 more sentences. As such, mass conformity and blind allegiance to reality go rewarded. But in following society's script, one loses all sense of their genuine selfhood. So we're at the 4th sentence. Now we have to answer the question, how does the author construct meaning? So listen to the dropping of the terms and devices. David James Armsby touches upon this through his ironic semantic play of the word pretty, as well as the extended metaphor of mask wearing. So they focus on the irony and the diction of the word pretty, and then the symbolism of certain characters wearing masks. And that's perfectly done. 3 plus 1. 3, what is the authorial intent? 1, how does the author construct meaning? Note the vocab in here. The student is within their wheelhouse. It's very well worded. Words like mechanism are really nice. Even words like contemporary, authenticity, conformity, genuine selfhood, ironic semantic play. So the student has nice elevated vocab, but also good sentence structure. As such, comma, and off they go. As such, comma, mass conformity and blind allegiance to reality go rewarded, right? And just a good mix of sentence constructs, independent clauses, adjective clauses, parenthetical statements, all the stuff that Strunk and White teach in rule number 18. Is being executed here. So this one's done perfectly. And I think we all would say out of the gate, if we were to read this, an AP student were to read this, we'd say, wow, I think this kid's going to get the sophistication point if they can continue to pull this off in the rest of the essay. Student number 2 going to manipulate the exact same template, 3+1. Dystopic societies create worlds that try to make individuals into pretty conformist cogs that keep the machinery of life going in accordance with the agenda of the status quo. Little wordy, but we get the gist of it. The student needs to trim the fat off some of their sentences, but you get the gist of what's happening. But the thing is, as Armsbury notes, this dystopic vision is what one sees happening around themselves on a daily basis. In almost every regard, difference and individualism are shunned in our society while mass conformity is rewarded. We're at the 4th sentence, same thing as the first one. Being pretty depicts these themes through the extended metaphor of mask wearing and the semantic play of the words pretty and ugly. So the exact same thing, 3+1, 3. What is the authorial intent? 1, how does the author construct meaning? And then the student focuses on their tier 2 without sounding overly contrived and pretentious. The idea is, not to use a bazillion, gazillion, $1,000,000 words and say, aha, I've done good writing, right? You have to stay in your wheelhouse and don't stretch the vocab too far. But this one's done excellent. And again, I think the student is out of the gates pretty blazing. They're on fire and definitely headed towards the sophistication point. And they've, definitely read the piece correctly. Here's number 3. Armsby is right. No matter how dystopic it may sound, modern societies brand the square pegs trying to fit into round holes as the ugly ones. Conversely, those who strictly adhere to the brainwashing of the prescribed script are perceived as being pretty. In most contemporary societies, traits such as free thinking and radical individualism are seen as dirty liabilities in need of transformation. All right, we're 3 sentences in. Do you see that's all universal theme? Those first 3 sentences. Just what's the universal theme? What is the authorial intent? Last sentence, get to the construction of meaning. Being pretty illustrates these points through ironic wordplay and the extended metaphor of the machine and collective mask. Again, perfect. Vocab's up, sentence structures are nice, there's good voice rhythm flow, good blend of academic, even a little bit of colloquial and vernacular in here. Adhere to the brainwashing of the prescribed script. I love it when students can teeter-totter balance that type of vocab. And I have some videos in my YouTube channel that teach voice. I did an exercise where we looked at AP Dream Team and having students, they kind of embody their inner Ralphie from A Christmas Story, Rory Gilmore, Carrie Bradshaw. Like of the Hollywood figures, who would we want to take our AP exams, whether it's language or lit? And I'm like, being tangential here, so alluding to other videos, we assembled an AP Dream Team, and those AP Dream Teamers talk like this, they write like this, which is very good. Here's number 4. Autodale, while at face value is dystopic, it is in reality the society in which we live. The truth is this: mass conformity is a pretty trait to embrace and is rewarded by those who control the machinery and strings of how things function and unfold. Conversely, those who buck the system are deemed as the ugly citizens in need of reprogramming or even banishment. David James Armsby depicts this shared fate through his semantic wordplay and extended metaphors. So through our discussion in class, we were able to determine that the two most salient things going on are the diction. You have to do the diction analysis of ugly and pretty, and then there are a couple of extended metaphors throughout it. The metaphor of machinery, which we see in a lot of dystopic literature, and mask wearing. So those are what we decided to peg down in our thesis statements. So everyone, 3 plus 1 is how you manipulate the template, and you get the kids going through the Nuance Academy, the Word Study Academy, and they'll be doing writing like this, which bodes well come time of the exam. So this is all some pretty sweet stuff. So know that at this stage of the game, my Teach It Right 5-week mastermind is being run and facilitated through the National Writing Project. So I'm still the lead teacher, so you'll be working with me. But the National Writing Project, just because they don't have as much overhead as I do when I work solo, have been able to reduce the price significantly. So it's pretty cool. They also are accredited and are able to award a badge of 10 completed professional development hours, and you get certification and a literal badge for that, for completing a 5-week course. So what we're doing is meeting Sunday nights for 5 consecutive weeks. And we've been meeting at 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then there's small little homework assignments, and that's it. So some fantastic PD that runs you through how I get my students to manipulate their constructs like that, how to elevate their vocab like that, teeter-totter balance the colloquial, the vernacular, and then mastery of the templates across the expository mode. And we also get into my alternative grading methods in my Plato's discussion in that 5-week mastermind. So if you want more information on that, you can check out my webpage at www.teachinghowtowrite.com. So it's there in yellow for you. You can also email me at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. And if you want the slides for this, that's the best place to reach me at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. Also note that with the beginning of the academic year, I'll be doing probably monthly webinars with Perfection Learning towards the end of the month, so stay abreast of that. I'll let folks know in my Facebook group, Teachers Making Better Writers, of upcoming webinars. Those are always free. And then my good buddies Tim Freitas and Brandon Abden and I are presenting at this fall's NCTE conference in Anaheim, California. So we'll be keeping you appraised of our presentation for that in the coming weeks and months. So take care for now. Hopefully this serves you well, and you can use it with your students to introduce dystopian literature, and be well. Happy teaching, happy writing.